I'll toss another name out there. Mike Florio says OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. Visiting the Dolphins. By the time we get off here, he might be signed to Miami. Good for Miami. Last year signed an $18 million deal. He had 500 and some yards and 3 touchdowns. 565 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 35 receptions. Guy hasn't had 1,000-yard year in 4 years since 2019. And don't get me wrong, at that moment, he was a stud. But it's been a while. He's 31 years old. You could sign him for nothing probably. But if we're talking about how Stephon Diggs isn't the guy to train George Pickens, I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is. I don't think that's what you're looking for. I just think that that's not going to solve much. Even if it didn't, if you eliminated everything off the field, every whatever, every bad notion that anybody has about Odell Beckham Jr., and you could sign him for $3 million, $4 million, would you do it? Would you say that he's a capable starter on the outside alongside George Pickens?
Personally, I don't see him as a guy that you're going to bring in to be a heavy weightlifter when it comes to your offensive production. Now, Arthur Smith doesn't use wide receivers a whole heck of a lot, and you would have to imagine that George Pickens is going to be the primary focus. So therefore, whoever's number 2 isn't going to get a whole lot of targets, but I still view Odell Beckham. I mean, even if you look at his year last year with Baltimore, he wasn't one of their top producers. He wasn't one of their top guys that was on the field for the entirety of the game, every single game. So I don't know if that's particularly a good answer for the Steelers. And like you mentioned, he might not have been as dramatic in Baltimore last year, and he might not be as dramatic under Mike Tomlin. But at the same time, the Steelers, as you mentioned, have tried to rid themselves as much as humanly possible of that. So bringing in a guy who has a history of being one of the biggest dramatic wide receivers in the National Football League, it just doesn't track with what everything has gone or how everything has gone so far this offseason.
Look, I agree. I don't look at OBJ as a guy that's coming in here and making an impact on the Steelers and raising the bar at all. I see him as a guy who's going to come in here, play 10 games, 12 games, maybe be around for the playoffs. You're hoping that you're getting something good out of him, but you still got to draft somebody, and he fills almost no needs. If you didn't have Van Jefferson, cool. He could be your 4. Sounds good to me. But you have Van Jefferson. Doesn't make any sense. OBJ, I mean, Florio's hilarious, man. Every time Florio says anything, I laugh because that guy, he's hilarious. He's hilarious. I don't look at OBJ as an answer. I think Ayuk is on the table, but I don't know. Terry McLaurin, I think, would be awesome. I think that's the best of them if you could get him cheap because there are no issues. The guy's a stud. He could play the inside and the outside. He's so fast. I think that would be awesome, but I think you're going to give up too much for a guy who's 27, maybe 28 years old. I don't look at it. And everybody's tossing Tyler Boyd in the chat. I think Tyler Boyd is still an option, but from what I have heard, and this is, there are reports floating around there, but I've also heard this personally, the discrepancy is money. That it's Tyler Boyd is looking for a bigger contract than the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to pay out. And I don't know what his market is. I don't know what Tyler Boyd's market is. I think if it falls to it, the Steelers could ink him to a 1-year deal for cheap because nobody else wants him. But if somebody else is going to pay him $8 to $10 million a year, he's going to go somewhere else, and it's not going to be Pittsburgh. And the Steelers should not pay this guy $10 million a year. They just shouldn't. He's 28 years old, and he's never had a 1,000-yard season. That's not somebody that you want to bring in here for $10 million a year. If it's 6 to 8, cool. I think I'm all about that. But anything less, no.